Anxiety sucks. Trust me, I know. I used to have it all the time. It's such a common thing in today's world, and yet so many people don't know how to best deal with their anxiety. So let's look at the most common mistakes people make when dealing with their own anxiety. So anxiety usually comes from one of three things. Either a thought about a particular situation, or a situation itself. And so when I say a situation itself, I mean something that's happening right now in the present moment. You are in an interview, you're about to give a presentation, you're about to take a test, something that is happening in the current moment. And it's often not anything we are doing in any particular moment that's causing anxiety and fear, but it's our thoughts about things that cause so much anxiety and fear. And our body doesn't know the difference between an imagined situation in our head and an actual threat in our environment. And because of this, what we really need to do is work on our attitude and our response to our own thoughts to help eliminate anxiety. We often try to convince ourselves that we are okay when we are experiencing anxiety. We are using thinking to get rid of a problem that is often started by thinking. So we need to do two things. We need to change our response to these anxiety-inducing thoughts. And then the second thing is to change our response to anxiety itself, the emotion of anxiety. So how do we change our response to anxiety-inducing thoughts? Well, you can try an exercise where you sit down in a place, close your eyes, and just count your breaths. Thoughts will come up, and anytime they do, say to yourself, thought. What this does is that you're strengthening the idea that you are not your thoughts and you're more easily able to witness them. So if you create a separation between yourself and the thought, then they're not as scary. You see them as just thoughts and you don't have to pay attention to every single one you have. So what you do is you take 10 minutes per day, you sit down, take deep breaths, and anytime a thought comes up, just say thought to yourself. If you do that every day, when those times when you do get anxiety come up, you'll notice those thoughts before you follow them down the scary path. So step number 2, it's changing our response to the actual emotion of fear. Oftentimes when we are feeling anxiety, we get so scared and we don't like the feeling and we just wish it would go away. What this does is making it actually stay longer. What we resist persists. So when we are afraid of fear and we dislike fear so much, what we're actually doing is it's like pouring gasoline on the fire. We're actually making it worse. So instead of trying to resist it and like fear, like we just wish it would go away and we're getting scared about the feeling of anxiety, which I said adds to it and makes it worse. What if we were to instead to try our best to just feel it and to be curious about the feeling, just sit with it without needing to react to it. And the more we are able to do this, the more we strengthen the belief that anxiety is just an emotion like any other emotion, and that it too shall pass, because all emotions, as you know, don't stay for long. However, if we resist them, they stay. So let's try to work on our habit of always fighting the fear, because that makes it stay longer. And honestly, guys, sometimes anxiety, if you're in the grip of it, it's just so much that it's hard to just stay with the feeling and be okay. You're just in a freak out, or the thoughts are too much at some moment and you're about to have a panic attack. What you can do is put your feeling or your awareness, your attention into your hands, or put them into your feet. This is a very good technique to try to eliminate very strong anxiety in the moment, because what it does is it takes our attention away from the mind, from thoughts where anxiety most often originates. So place your attention into your hands or feet when the feelings of emotion of anxiety are so strong that it's hard to control. That's a great technique to do when you're in the grip of anxiety. All right, so let's sum up. Number one, anxiety is usually caused by thinking about the past or the future. It's often thinking that gets us very anxious. It's very rarely something that we're actually doing in the present moment. The next thing is we often try to think our way out of anxiety. And as we've talked about, thinking is usually what gets us into that mess anyway. So let's try to do something different than always trying to think and reassure ourselves that we are okay, because that's not going to actually fix the problem long term. Then we have our twofold practice to try to help with anxiety, which is one, change our response to anxious thoughts. And we can start doing that by counting our breaths, and anytime we have a thought, to just note the thought. And this is a skill that can be strengthened, and so next time you have anxious thoughts, you might be able to get ahead of that thought train before it derails you down a path of anxiety. Part two is that we need to change our response to the emotion of anxiety. If we're able to just sit with it, let it be, it doesn't have that strong of a grip on us anymore. So it's important that we try to change the relationship we have with it's an emotion of anxiety. So I hope you guys learned a little bit about how we need to change our response to thinking and the emotion of anxiety itself, and why the things we used to do to try to curb our anxiety doesn't really work long term. So thank you guys for watching, and I'll see you next time.